when you formulate your own why, that suddenly is like your North Star, right? Like suddenly everything, there's a very clear purpose for you. Once you know your purpose, then you can almost evaluate every single decision that you make on how is that going to impact your long-term alignment with your purpose. Is it going to make you closer or further?
Hey everyone, today we are thrilled to have my former boss, P.U.R.E, now CFO and coach at GloCoach, to share his path and his passion about coaching with us. And maybe we have one thing or more to learn about how to live a fulfilled life, how to live one's passion. And thanks very much for doing this, P.U.R.E. Could we start by exploring what has driven you to coaching? And yeah, maybe a little more about your path.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And by the way, thank you for having me, Thomas. It's a great pleasure to be here and be able to share something from my experience, and hopefully will help others, your listener, your audience, to find their own path and do something they're happy and proud and passionate about. As you mentioned in the introduction, your path and my path, we crossed some years ago in finance. Indeed, I have worked in finance for about 30 years before I formally switched over full time into talent development work last year. And I think what I noticed in my years of finance is there are many, many, many people who work in finance who don't really know why they're doing it. Like they're doing it because other people tell them they should, that it pays well, it's prestigious, but they're not really sure this is their calling. And for most of them, actually, it's not. They just do it because it pays. And I see that over the years, and I was one of them, right? Because I started my role in finance because my roommate said, "Hey, you're good at math and econ, you should do this job." And I'm like, okay. I'm still in touch with my roommate today, and he also went in finance, and I'm grateful for that. But that was how I started, because my roommate said this is the right thing for you, and I followed his advice. But over the years, I find that I wanted to help people in a more collaborative way. Whereas when I'm the MD of the team, I have my list of KPI for each staff. I have my weekly updates. I have my monthly reviews. I have my quarterly, assessment and, annual performance appraisals. All these things are very top-down command and control. And I'm basically the guy holding the whip and force people to do things. And it didn't click with me in the sense, I'm more of I want to help people to grow, but not by whipping them to death, right? Like there's some conflict in me. And I was so happy when I came across coaching through one of the social events. I met someone who shared with me there's another approach that, in fact, you can encourage the person to grow for them to take charge of their own development path and to be their partner in this trajectory, as opposed to there's a stick and carrot approach that all the bankers use. So instead of stick and carrot, sort of help them to find their own inner self and their own purpose. And I think that in that way, give them a much more sustainable path towards self-improvement and eventually a better position in life and career. So I came across that and I thought, oh my God, this is great. It released so much stress and pressure from my shoulders because I realized in this case, I can help the person to take responsibility for their own path. And because I was in a position of influence as MD in the organization, I can support them in different ways to help them to grow. So that was really helpful. And I sort of became I think nowadays we call it internal coach. So I became a coach within the organization. I try to coach as many people as I can. And eventually I like it so much that I've now become a full-time talent development person, and now leveraging AI to, again, help people to gain clarity about where they are and how they can grow and support them more fully in their own path.
Yeah, a little bit about our path. When I was intern at the investment bank, you were like 3 or 4 levels above me. You were the managing director of the bank. And after that, I discovered, and you also discovered, I wasn't the right good fit for a sales role. So I just moved on to be a research analyst, and you move on to be CEOs of several asset managers. And yeah, it's an interesting reunion.
Indeed. It's interesting how everyone have different paths. And I think this is one of the things I wish people can be more tolerant of their own path, that there's no one path for any given person. There are many opportunities and possibilities. And I really believe that if we take the time to learn more about ourselves, about our values, about our strength and leadership capabilities, we can try different positions at different stage of our careers and see which one gels best. It's okay to experiment and it's okay to try different things, and let's not be too harsh on ourselves whether we are particularly successful in one path or another. Like I've tried, even in my career, I started out being a trader. I started being an option trader on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and then I became a sort of internal consultant. Then I became sales. Then I ran asset management companies, and now I'm a CFO in a startup company. So all these are very, very different roles, but I think we all have the potential within us to find fulfillment in what we do, and that will give us more meaning and purpose, and make our growth more sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, some people, they imagine life a train track, right? You have to get on the train. If you fall down from the train, it's very hard to get back on it, right? But sometimes life can be a growing tree, right? Sometimes it can grow in that direction, in another direction. But yeah, life will find its own path forward.
Definitely, definitely. I think that's a great way of putting it. That even if you're on a train on a track, when you go to a train station where there's an exchange of many tracks, it's okay to go, to change track. That's perfectly fine. And I always think that in our lifetime, there are few places where you have significant, train tracks and train track exchange. One is of course where you go to college, right? You go to college and you have the freedom of choose which way to specialize or engage. After college, of course, there's the work. I think many of your audience are young professionals or people who are excitedly embarking on their life's journey workspace. And the third, of course, is your family. You can start your own family, and then who you choose and how you engage will become another interesting choice. But all these tracks, there's no, if you don't follow this, you fail. I mean, every track leads somewhere, and so long as it leads to some place of meaning for you, then it's success by your standard, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned you found your calling, right? And it's really incredible because I read the story, right? Three persons, three labor men building a church. The first one is like, I'm playing with the bricks. And the second one is, I'm building a church. And the third one is, I'm building a place of God. And the first one has a job. The second one has a career. And the third one has a calling. And it's really remarkable. And so when did you find your calling, and what stage of career were you in?
I think I found my calling really after I started coach training, and this is where we have something in common. We both enjoy helping people. We also took coach training, and a lot of coach training is reflective questioning. When you're busy running after P&L targets, you don't really have time to reflect, right? Like you have, like I need that P&L to be up at this level like yesterday, and it's not there. What are we going to do about it? But when you take coach training, a lot of it, we practice deep listening, and part of deep listening is also internal. It's about reflect on what's happening and think about why I'm here. What is my purpose in life? And it was when I was going through this training, I realized I actually don't have the answer to some of those questions, which are very, very important questions. And then I realized actually, yeah, I just been living my life based on other people's recommendations, not so much as my own. And I think it threw me into a space where I didn't know how to handle that, right? So it took me a while to process it. And I think it was, and I still remember I was lying in bed one night and I was staring at the ceiling, and I was like, why? Like, what makes me really proud? What, if I connect the dots on all the things that I'm happy about or really excited about or proud of, like, what things would I do if I don't even get paid for it? And I think that eventually merged into one personal purpose, which I can articulate now. I didn't know this before, but then I can articulate as I want to unleash people's potential. Because when I do that, I feel really in a flow state. Like it's almost like I get more energetic after I support people's, through coaching sessions or conversations like this. And in the process, I feel if I can help them in some way, then I feel really good about myself. And that has nothing to do with money. That has nothing to do with material gains. It's purely something that resonates with me. So yeah, so I would say the calling. People find a calling different ways. For me, it took a lot of hard questioning, late at night thinking about why I'm here. And I'm very fortunate that the framework and the structure of the coaching training process, give us some safe space to reflect and think things through, that I'm able to find that. And I think after that, it's almost like I get so much more clarity about everything, right? Then I know, okay, that's why I like this, or that's why I didn't like that. And it gives me the opportunity to align my long-term development with my purpose, which is why, as I explained, I've switched over to talent development full-time last year, joining GloCoach as the startup company.
That's an incredible journey. I do have to say I resonate with you in terms of personal experience. Not that I have achieved similar kind of success in finance, but I do resonate with you in terms of kind of transition, right? The mental transition from a pure, it's not profit-driven, but at least it's results-driven. It's about building wealth-driven mindset to a more value-driven mindset, right? To a more energy-driven or passion-driven. But one thing I would like to share is not a promotion or anything, is I recently have these kind of value cards I bought from Amazon. And it has like 50 core values that people normally will appreciate. And then you have to eliminate to like 5 or 10, depends on how cruel you want it to be. And then you can see all my 5 core values. These, for example, mine currently are like authenticity, courage, resilience, self-expression, connection. I think different people have different rankings, right? And I think similar process or practice, or even the coaching sessions, could help people to reflect or be conscious about what their core values are and how these could dictate what they're going to do going forward.
That's right. And I feel like what you describe is very important, because when people gain more clarity around their self, around who they are, around how they can bring more of self into what they do, and therefore get better in that, and therefore get a sense of achievement, it's really powerful. And I definitely encourage people to do that kind of reflection. There are many tools out there. Some of it, as you explained, can be the deliver value deck, and I think one of the most important things that people can do is to understand themselves better, so that they have more control on how they live their lives, which I think is important. There's a famous I was a math major, so I try to keep track of lots of equations. So one framework that people can use to look at this is what we call the performance equation, which basically says your performance, this is what people observe, this is what you produce. Your performance equals your potential minus interference. So in the context of what we do in the business world, for example, your performance at any given time is really a subset of your potential. You have potential to do much more than what you're performing, because none of us work 100%, highly productive, engaging all the time. It's not humanly possible. So where are we really on that scale? I mean, the performance may beat the budget or beat the target that that the manager set for you, but it's definitely a very small percentage of your potential. So what's holding you back is interference, and the interference are things that kind of, it could be external interference, like, market's bad, or your clients are being painful to work with, or your colleagues gave you the wrong price, things like that. Or it could be internal, which is you feel, you've already done what you could, and you're sort of capping yourself on your trajectory or growth. But when you work on a framework like this, it will help you to identify things that you can potentially change. Because once you make the list of interference, things that impact you, and could be a thought that holds you back, like, oh, I'm only so good, I can't do that, can I? Like, give yourself permission to do more is one of the most powerful things you can do. You can only do that after you recognize what is holding you back. When people look at the performance equation, it's a great way to reflect on really what is holding me back. Let me write it down on paper, and then let me look at it. Is it really true that I can't do this? Or do I really have to live by this restriction, whether external or internally imposed? So I just thought of that when you were talking about, helping people to do more with who they are. I think having, know your values, which is more of a long-term authenticity alignment, and know the tactical interference that's holding you back. Like, you combine the two, then you have the strategy, and then you have the technical way to implement things quickly.
So what are the major examples of limiting beliefs that you have seen over the past several years, whether it's for the younger folks or for the accomplished management or executives?
Oh, I would think the number one limiting belief is I'm not good enough, for whatever reason. So it could be a young person comes up, there's a meeting, and they don't dare to speak up because I'm not good enough. When in reality, when you're invited to the table, by definition, you're good enough in some way to be even invited. And therefore, why not share what you have to bring? Because your perspective is different from other people. And different means diversification. It means alternative ways of looking at things. It also means potentially, who's to say your way is not the right way, right? And because you don't have all information, why not share what you know, so that people who have more information or different information than you can synthesize and really bring something even more valuable from the exchange? I think that topic in of itself can take many hours. You and I know as coaches that, if someone is saying, I'm not good enough, or, have that certain type of perfectionist tendencies, it takes some work for them to recognize that it's okay not to be perfect, and it's okay to sound stupid from time to time. Who's going to remember that, right? Like, in 5 years, nobody cares. But if by doing so, you allow yourself to engage and interact more, it's like one conversation at a time, you raise yourself to a higher level to engage and perform. That is very powerful. Because I've worked with many people as coach and as managers. As coach in particular, whenever we dig into some of their limiting beliefs, they tend to have their roots in their emotional past. I'm overgeneralizing a bit here, but I think it's true for majority of the case. Not for all, but for majority of the case. So what that means is, let's say we work with someone who grew up in China, right, where it's very hierarchical. It's very, these are exams you have to take, these are studies you have to do, and then they come over to America, and in a way, I'm sharing my past. So when that happens, they're taught to toe the line, to speak only when spoken to be modest, right? To not care too much about money, so there's a lot of values that they're as they grow as a individual, that their society imposed on them along the way. And because they are where they are, they live through that. So they're almost shaped in that way. And then when you come to a place of a different value system or behavior, what is acceptable behavior, is a tough transition, because you're not sure what to do or what not to do. So you tend to just observe and see what happens first. And I think many people who have, this is true in Korea or Japanese culture, East Asia, like a lot of these cultures are similar. And so when it comes to America, there's a tough adjustment period. And I think they hold a belief that, again, if there's a senior person speaking, I should shut up. Like I will never directly make statement that's contradictory to them to make them lose face, right? Like that's just not going to happen. But is that really the best way to help the team to grow? And I think depending on the situation may not be, but that's just what it is. So in terms of limiting belief, a lot of the limiting belief come from the social protocol or the value system that we grew up with. And they continue to stay with us even as we work. And I think part of the challenge for us as coaches is to say, how do we help people to recognize that just because you worked really well in the past doesn't mean you have to do the same thing at present or in the future. It's okay to step back, to look at it and go, okay, there's 10 components of my value system. Maybe 8 of them are still really good, but there's 2 of them, if I want to excel in this environment, I may need to shift, which is very challenging, right? To have people to change behaviors or even value systems. Not necessarily to change them, but putting a hold in this context. So you understand the intention is to do better or help other people to grow, but the method or the approach may need to have small adjustment. Yeah, so it's a long answer to your question. What are the limiting beliefs out there? I would say for any given person, how they grow up and what they experienced, especially as a young, impressionable, I want to say teenager or even younger, surprisingly, many of that stay with us. And it does take a lot of reflection to see that clearly, so you can choose how you want to grow, right? We're not talking about therapy. We're talking about future development, but you can't run really fast if you have all this baggage that you're carrying. The analogy I would say, Usain Bolt is the fastest man on earth and runs 100 meters like a lightning. But if he's running with 10 small parachutes behind him, he's not going to make the world record, right? He's not even going to be in top 10. So figure out what these parachutes are that's dragging you down is very, very important.
I'm really impressed by the metaphor you used in your book, Live Your Life, a backpack. And we have a backpack stuff, right? Like tools, books, whatever. It's like our beliefs, our perception of the world, and how we believe we should behave, how we can succeed. And these are some of the backpacks. Some of the stuff we put them there, right? Some of the stuff our parents put them there. Our teachers put them there. And now it's time. Now we are in a new environment. Maybe we should just unpack it and see whatever is in it, and whether we can go through one by one and see if we need it anymore, right? Because we have to make room for other stuff, make room for the new tools we need. I think it's such a powerful metaphor.
Because unpacking what we carry with us along the way is such an important thing that we can do, but also because we don't do it often, so we're not really experiencing it if we're trying to do it for the first time, or like we're not sure. And the uncertainty, is at risk, right? Like we're not sure what's going to happen. And it's very hard to do it on our own and just hope that we can do it right the first time. And when I say right, do it in a very rigorous and very supportive and very constructive way. And this is where I think coaching can really, really help people, because coaches are trained to create a safe space where you can do the unpacking. Coaches are experts in do the deep listening and reflect back on what they heard and what they observed. So to help you to unpack things that even more thoroughly and more comprehensively. And coaches also are trained to provide you with that confidentiality that you don't need to worry about, somehow your vulnerability is being taken advantage of, but it does allow you to open up much more. So I really believe everyone can benefit from a coaching conversation around this simple topic of unpacking. There are many others that they can be coached on, but if there's one thing, if you want to run fast, unpack first, right? Figure out what you want to bring with you, and the coaches can do that.
And I really like the thing that when we are children, when our parents don't see us, we don't see ourselves. Maybe in the society, if other people don't see us, we can't see ourselves. So sometimes it's to have someone really sees us, hears from us, and hold us. And then we have the courage, awareness that we have values, we have a backpack, and we can review these things. Before that, we just don't know they exist, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. By sheer momentum of where we are, who we are, and those around us, we're kind of like just get pushed along. Kind of like you said, if there's someone who can really create that space where we can do, this sort of a reflections or unpacking, as you call it, then potentially we feel empowered to make a change because we want to, not because other people tell us to, but because we want to make a change. And I think that accountability is very important, especially I want to say, especially in Asian culture, right? It's so easy to just do everything that other people tell you. You don't have to think too much, right? You just do it, and it's okay. Life is good, but you can do so much more.
I would like to share some of my personal experience. My mentor is like a portfolio manager in a asset management firm, and he's not a coach per se, but he did take like a coaching approach to me, and it was refreshing. The first time he met me, he didn't tell me what I should do to improve my work capability. He just asked me, "What's your style? What's your investment style? What's your investment philosophy?" And he's genuinely curious about who I want to be. I think it's a little bit similar to a coaching approach, right? Genuinely interested in who you want to be, who you are, and what's your dreams, what's your goals, what's your struggles. And it's such powerful that when someone start listening to me, I start to listen to myself. And it's such a powerful process to go through.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, indeed, in large, especially large organizations, they're used to just top down, right, all the way through. And no, it's very rare for the seniors to turn around and say, what do you think, right? And that's why I think coaching and mentor. I mean, probably they started off in a similar vein. Even some global organization like EMCC, they promote mentor and coaching. Like it's jointed in terms of conversational engagement. And I think both are just different ways to help people. In the company I'm at now called GloCoach, we also do advisory coaching, which is a form of mentor coaching. So in addition to ask questions and ask open questions and help people to reflect, we also allow the coaches to share some of their experience with permission to share some of their experience so that it's not just what do you think will grow, but also say, hey, in my experience, I've done this and this is what happened. As you hear about my experience, what do you think, right? Like to give them more data points so they're able to arrive at actionable steps sooner. There's a whole spectrum of different ways of engaging, but ultimately the measure of success is how that person responds and whether they are willing to take that accountability and grow themselves.
Would you like to touch upon the why and purpose? You call it the quote, the two most important days in a person's life is the first day is the day you were born, and the second day is the day you found out why. It's so powerful. And what does purpose and why mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think because we're living human beings, right? Our experience accumulates over time, our values grow and shift, and our beliefs also change. So we're dynamic beings. So I would say the purpose that we have, our own why, may take time to form. And as they form and it resonates with who we are, then we pursue it. So this is what I mean when you were mentioning the two important days when you're biologically born, and then when you're from the context of purpose, when you formulate your own why, that suddenly is like your North Star, right? Like suddenly everything there's a very clear purpose for you as a person. And that may shift a bit more over time as you refine and gain more information, but by and large, the direction becomes very clear. And I would almost say if you think about it, the later in life that you find it, the more powerful it is, because that's really the combination of everything that you experienced so far that distill into this one single purpose. And now you can march forward much more confidently, knowing this is who I am, because the purpose really defines you. And I think for most people, it's very hard. It's like the Maslow's pyramid of needs, right? Like it's very hard to think about purpose or self-actualization if you are still struggling at the basic needs level, which means it's rare for people to think that far ahead on purpose when they're still trying to find a job, basically, right? And that makes sense. And I would say it doesn't mean you can't think about your purpose at that point, because remember what we said, many of your value system carries over from your teenage years. So actually by the time you're in college and certainly by the time you enter workforce, most of who you are has been formulated already. You can still change it, but it's like 80% there. And based on that, you can already kind of see what kind of purpose resonates with that. So you can still have conversations with yourself or with a coach or with your love and trust ones about, what is my why? Maybe is having a drink with your best friend and it's like, yeah, actually I've been thinking about this. And I figure I want to do that, right? Because that make my heart sing, right? That makes it just puts me on cloud nine and just feeling super happy about it. The good thing is once you know your purpose, then you can almost evaluate every single decision that you make on how is that going to impact your long-term alignment with your purpose. Is it going to make you closer or further? And And you can, the more sophisticated ways of looking at it would be, let me think about a longer time horizon. 5 years later, does this decision put me closer to the purpose or not? Yeah, so I think absolutely the purpose is something that you have, that you own, that no one can take away. And that will, when you're walking the path to fulfill your purpose, people will feel it, right? They will look at you, they go, wow, something's different about this guy because, or this lady, right? Because this person is really, there's that alignment, there's that authenticity, there's that presence that, right, that really make you go, wow. Based on your response, I think you also see people who don't have that, and you go, yeah, but they're just working, right? They're just getting paid. This is one of the most incredible thing we can do for our own personal development, is to find our purpose.
Yeah, without a purpose, life is something you have to muscle through. Many people's value system or belief system are built on solving questions or solving problems. For example, they have like a million problems to solve, and then each problem solving is interconnected. So they don't feel their values, they don't feel their purpose. If something is deeply in violation of these values, they may feel it. Something's wrong, but they don't know which values are violated. Just know something is wrong. It's like dormant purpose, dormant value. If they want to unleash their potential, maybe a great way is to have your values. You are conscious of your values. You are conscious of your purpose, and every single step you take are directly linked to these values and purpose. So these things are just aligned or coherent with these values.
Yeah, I feel that's a great way of putting in the context, because you're basically telling people, once you know your values and purpose, there's much better alignment. And also remember, we're talking about a performance equation, which is, and we know this, if the value that you have is in conflict with what you do, that is a huge interference in what kind of result you're going to get.
Yeah.
Right. So when we talk about performance is potential minus interference, and that's a huge interference, because if it conflicts with your values, you're just not going to work that hard at it, right? You're going to be like, why am I doing this? It's not who I am, but I have to because I have to pay the bill. But I really don't like it. And you can bet that you're not spending not even 80% of your potential at this. You're lucky if you spend half. In the context of long-term sustainable path that's more aligned with your purpose and value, it's good to, instead of just being busy solving, putting out fire all the time, which is what you and I do in finance a lot of the time, right? Like Marcus' movie. Oh my God, there's a water, we gotta go. There's a lot of firefighting. Yeah, exactly. So instead of firefighting all the time, which keep you busy but doesn't really help you grow, I think, if there's a behavior that can really help, is if we can take a small amount of time, say half an hour a week, just put it in, schedule it, because if this is important to you, then schedule half an hour to reflect on your value and purpose and see how they align with what you do, and see if you notice what things consistently make you feel unwell, right? Yeah. When you have conflict, you can be physically sick if you have this kind of conflict because you're so stressed about it. So try to reflect on these things. And if you can do this every week, just half an hour a week, because it's important for your personal growth, if you can just do this every week, over time, you will notice that things you do becomes more natural, right? Because you've identified the ones that are really in conflict. So you try to change from that. The things you do are more natural. You don't feel like you're working as hard because you're doing things that's aligned with your values and your purpose. So it's naturally energizing for you emotionally. And that really sets you up for long-term succeed. Because again, when we're in finance, we talk about the amazing effect of compounding, right? If you can every week compound to have 5, maybe even 10% improvement from before, because you get rid of the interference from this misalignment, right, of your value versus what's required of you. If you can do that 5-10% improvement every week, oh my God, after 50 weeks, you're a completely different person. So it's something that people can definitely benefit from, to schedule a half an hour reflective session on your values and purpose in what you do.
From my own experience in finance, if someone is conscious of their values, or they are even value driven, it may get in the way of making their career successful, because sometimes people have different values, right? Because some people may value integrity and some banks don't. And yeah,
there's that. It's like a different shades of gray that people are willing to accept or not. And I think this is the challenge that we face in the real world. Nothing's so clear cut, right? But the balance is, as you see more clearly what's going on, you can actually dissect the situation into different components. Like where's my red line, right? The more you know about yourself, the clearer you see where the red line is, the easier for you to prevent things from moving too close to the red line for you to make that tough decision. Like you can just, upstream already tell people, no, I'm not going to go down there. Like you do what you have to do, but I'm not going down there because I don't want to, I want to protect myself on that aspect. But again, having more clarity, I think will help people to manage the more complex situation at work better, because they kind of know what's coming and they can pre-position themselves to prevent some of these very challenging decisions.
Yeah, and also the price you're going to pay for having these values, right? Because a recipe for burnout is the illusion that you can have it all. Be a perfect dad. You can be the perfect employee. You can be the most successful trader on the street. Yeah, maybe the most successful banker on the street. And you have to select and make the trade-offs in the way that you feel coherent with your values. Right?
If the only metric for measuring someone's success is the P&L number, their behavior will tend to go towards what can boost the P&L, but not how do I protect or take care of myself. The only way I can think of is if you can extend the timeline. So you're not talking about P&L number this month where you're gonna stare at the screen 24 hours a day, but to extend that to say I want to become a multi-year top tier generator of P&L, in which case it's a different equation because now I need to optimize my physical and mental well-being and emotional well-being where I can really repeatably and sustainably generate top tier performance. And that will introduce a better holistic way of looking at things, I feel. But you and I know in banking, the boss needs that number this quarter because his promotion depends on it, and he's not going to care about your multi-year well-being, right? So there's definitely challenges like that you need to just be cognizant of.
I would like to touch upon ikigai, the concept you mentioned in your book. And it's like 4 components, right? The first component is what you love to do, what you are passionate about. The second is what you are good at and what the world needs. And the last one is people are willing to pay for it. How do the audience frame their behaviors or their actions based on ikigai?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So the ikigai, you can argue, and again, I have slightly biased opinion because of my personal experience and because I've been involved in financial market for so long. So the way I see it, why I went in finance first and stayed there for long is because I want to accumulate enough resources so I don't need to worry about the final condition of ikigai, which is getting paid. I want to make enough money that I don't need to worry about people paying me, and then I can really pursue things that I love, things that I'm good at, and that the thing that the world needs.
Yeah.
And if you think about that 3 thing is so powerful that if I do it, like I will be willing to do it for free. But if I do it for free, I need to make sure I have enough money in the bank account, and not only for me, but for my 2 kids, right? So they can, until they're independent financially. So it took me 30 years to get to this point before I switched over to pursue my ikigai, which is help people unleash their potential. Now, it doesn't mean all the young people should then all go into finance to make money first. No, it just means that as long as you have ikigai as a long-term goal, you could go into commercially or financially rewarding careers, be it finance, be it legal, be it entrepreneur or whatever, so that you can get to that level that allows you to then focus more on the first 3 aspects of ikigai. So I think for the young people, I would say if you can find something that you get paid enough and and that you love, you're good at, and the world needs, then fantastic, because that's going to be one of the most rewarding experiences you can have. If you haven't found it yet, I would suggest try to find a job that gives you some savings so you have more option down the line to pursue other things. So it's a probability game, right? Like every year there's a certain probability you'll come across your ikigai occupation or pursuits. If you don't get it, at least you're adding savings to your bank account. So eventually you have more option, because imagine the ikigai comes, but it doesn't give you enough money, and you have enough savings to compensate for that, then you can still pursue it, right? So that's a win-win. That's a great situation to have, but then you make it available by accumulating some of the resources yourself at it. And I would also add that the concept of ikigai is sort of a snapshot in time, right? It's at this point in time, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much you love it, how good are you, how badly the world needs it, and do you get paid enough, right? You can just rank each, and once you fulfill the threshold, you found your ikigai. So these things can change over time. So in a way, life is a journey, right? Like if you find an ikigai and you're so fulfilled that you're like, I don't want to change anything, I'm just going to keep doing this forever. That's great because it works for you. At the same time, I would say if you don't have that huge degree of happiness with the ikigai combination you have, and it's okay because things change, right? Your environment change, yourself change, you're learning new things, you're exposing to new ideas. It's okay to not find an ikigai, but look for something kind of like it, right? So give yourself permission to have like a 50% ikigai and say, you know what, that's the best I can see at the moment. I don't mind trying for a while, and that's okay. So I think and this goes back to my original point that if you have more financial resources, if you're more open-minded, if you lower the benchmark of finding perfection in the ikigai, then you have more chance to explore different combinations and see if it works for you. That's why I think when young professionals, your first few years, the opportunity cost is lower, then that's the time you explore different options, right? Maybe banking is good for a couple of years, then maybe crypto is happening. You try that. Maybe doing MNC, multinational corporation work is interesting. Maybe there's so many different things you can try. Experience them. It's okay to try and, only settle when you are very confident, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, it just occurred to me that I think maybe the list for your ikigai conditions, they are ranked for a reason, right? They are kind of layer to layer, so that the first condition you need to satisfy before you go to the next. I think is a better way to look at it. Do you concur, or you have a different perspective?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
You and we have a bias, right? You and I are saying this maybe like where we're saying maybe getting paid or not is the least important, but that's probably because we don't worry about that as much. But if you come in at a very poor environment where getting paid is the most important, then you will put that on top. Like whether I love doing it doesn't even matter. I need to get paid. People need it, so they continue to pay me, and I'm good at it, so they're definitely gonna hire me. And oh, by the way, I love it. Then great.
Yeah.
So maybe they will flip the priority depending on the environment they're in.
I do agree it's sometimes to be a luxury stuff, right? Because once you are in the survival mode, you are just looking for a job, you are looking for some money to pay your bill. It's difficult to re-rank the order and find your passion, your purpose. Sometimes some folks desperate looking for a job, but I think the opportunities is hanging around their face. They just couldn't see it because they're looking for a job, but maybe they can do other stuff which is quite lucrative. But they couldn't see it at the moment because is it called scarcity mindset?
Yeah, definitely. I think young people, because now if you look at the youth unemployment rate, depending on who you ask, could be anywhere from 20 to 30%. And for them to think about ikigai sounds like a luxury, but what they can do, because again, having clarity about where they really care, because and it all comes back down to if they care about something they love doing and they're good at it, then they're going to continue to improve on that thing on their own, right? Without people whipping them into shape, they're going to spend all the available time to get better at that. Therefore, they were going to get to eventually an expert level much faster than if they don't love it. And once you're expert and the world needs it, they're going to get paid. So there's a logic behind follow your passion, because then you're going to just work that much harder at it, and that compounds over time into a very predictable success. So I think the framework still works. People just, if they can see their genuine love of things, their values, their purpose earlier, then it's more natural for them to channel all their efforts towards it. And again, compounding takes over after that. So I think, one of the best things that coaches can do, and this would fall in the line of more career coaching, is really help people to dig out, okay, what do you love to do really? Like if you don't get paid for anything, what would you do? And that is something, if you can find a connection between a derivative of what you do there with commercial needs in the real world, that's something you should pursue, because over time you're going to outrun everybody because you love doing it, right? You read stories about Hollywood stars who used to be a waiter in Los Angeles restaurants waiting for their big break, right? That's essentially what we're talking about here. Like if you really want to do something, you can go work 2 shifts in 3 different restaurants, whatever, and still go through training, still go to audition, and still practice and be able to make it eventually, which comes back to, how much do they really want that Hollywood dream, right? That's what they love doing. If you love it enough, you would do menial work just to make ends meet, to give you the condition to succeed later. So I think to some extent, young people, the sooner they see what makes their heart sing, the better it is, because then they can direct their energy and resource to grow along that path.
One phenomenon I noticed is slightly similar to self-sabotage. It's something like a phenomenon I witnessed over the past few years. Whoever is desperately looking for a job, and so they may go networking with people, right? They talk to them and ask, "Do you have a job to offer me?" But it's not the right approach, right? The kind of desperate energy just got in your way. So if you ask the right question, for example, what do you do? What's your needs? How could you help your firm? How could we collaborate? How could we add value to your firm? Maybe that's the right question. Maybe because you're not that desperate, and then you can get the job even faster. So it's like a change in mindset that can maybe more financially rewarding than just looking for a job per se.
I think that the sense of desperation is really interference, right? Like it's interfering with the way they present themselves. And when you are trying to appeal to someone who's not in your control, you kind of lose yourself in the process. But at the same time, as you said, if you can really think about your value add to them from their perspective and ask the kind of open questions like, hey, if you were able to engage someone like me, what would success look like? Like what can we add value to your portfolio and make you look good in front of your boss, right? In a very thoughtful way. I think it's a different conversation than, hey, just like 30 other people you've spoken in the last 2 weeks, we want a job. Can you give me one? It's like, no, like who the hell are you, right? If I give a job for everyone who knock on my door, like I've been given like 1,000 jobs. I can't do that. But if you add value to me, that's different. I mean, that's essentially what job market is about, is, what is the cost benefit, right? If I hire you, this is how much it's going to cost me: time, space, energy, money. What do you bring to the table? Like, where's my break even? When can my boss tell me that's a great hire? If they can visualize that, it's a much easier conversation. You need to think as if you already work there, and to think, what can you bring? What do you bring to the table based on what you know? Because you don't know nearly enough, right? Because they know more than you know what they need. But you need to show some initiative to say, look, even though I don't know much, I believe I can help you in this.
Yeah.
And so they can get, okay, even on limited information, this person is very proactive, engaging. It sounds like he loves doing this. Why not? Give the person a shot. He's trying. The effort is there. So I think working on things that's in your control, such as using the effort to make some potentially value adding suggestions is helpful in this context.
We touch upon connections. Do connections play a huge part in your coaching life? And how do you view connections?
Well, when I think of connections in coaching context, it's more connection you make with the coachee, right? Like, in a way, coach is able to provide that safe space by connect with the coachee and build trust with the coachee and be able to say, I'm here for you, right? This is your session. This is how you can grow, and I want to help you. And that connection is very important, because at the end of the day, you only have, several hours with the individual, and to put them at ease and let them know this is something that can really help them. That takes practice. And you need to be able to, on a human to human level, make them feel comfortable with you, or at least trusting that the process can help them. Right. Yeah. So that's connection. And, because nowadays a hot topic is like AI, right? Like, is AI going to replace all the coaches? It's going to be very hard for AI to replace human in terms of this kind of connection. So, but what's the benefit of this connection? Well, we talk about your values and purpose and sort of a deeper reflection of who you are. These are very sensitive topics, and AI may not have that experience or the data to really support you in that path. If it's a very content-driven topic, it's like, I have my marketing campaign coming up. I'm not sure what to do. And the AI can look at the marketing strategy of 20,000 companies and say, well, the top 3 is this, this, this. Would you like me to work with you to go through that? And it's a fairly instructional or very specific, content-driven conversation. I think AI, giving enough data, they can coach in very specific cases. But AI is good at coaching on the what and the how. I think if you talk about coaching the who and the why, AI is not there yet. And the who and the why requires a connection, a human connection, before you even go there. Right? If someone just met on the street, you're not going to bare your soul to them, right? Yeah. But if there's a connection with a coach that you feel can really help you, you don't mind sharing a bit more about who you are or why you.
One thing I learned from coaching is that influence is like a derivative of rapport and trust. And whatever statement or logic you have are meaningless without the kind of trust and rapport, right? Could we touch upon your P.U.R.E framework?
Thanks for raising the topic. It's something I feel very passionate about. In fact, I think P.U.R.E, because in my years of engaging people who set up goals, I observe some are very successful and some are less so, and I try to find patterns behind all of them and try to find the methodology that can potentially create self-fulfilling goals, right? The goals that when you set are so powerful that it's going to be successful. And it's great to have those kind of goals to reinforce your self-confidence, to reinforce positive feelings, and to be able to grow further from them. And the framework I've come up with that I feel is very relevant, especially nowadays with so much complexity around us. What kind of goals should we set? And by the way, December is around the corner, so we're going to have New Year resolutions. What kind of goals should I set for the new year? These are all very relevant points. So the way I would encourage people to look at is what we call the P.U.R.E framework. P.U.R.E. Each stands for an aspect of the goal setting, and I'll explain that very briefly here. P stands for positively phrased, right? So it's a positively phrased framework. So take New Year resolution as example. Instead of saying, I'm not going to drink, too much alcohol every week, I'm not going to drink too much alcohol. So when you think of it, you're thinking about drinking alcohol. So our brain just messes up when we think of it this way. Or you can say, so if I think about when I drink alcohol, it's, after dinner, friends call, we go out party, and next thing I know, I drink too much. So then I say, okay, I want to make sure at least 5 nights a week, I do reading at home after dinner. Right? I'm just going to do that. In fact, I'm going to put in my schedule, so I'm not even available to take off calls. So I can positively frame something to prevent the negative incidents from happening. So having positively, then you're visualizing I'm sitting there reading or writing or doing something that's more reflective and not drinking alcohol, most importantly, not drinking. So that can be a way of frame it, positively framed. You is under your control, right? So we have goals like, people have goals like, I want to get promotion in 2026, or I want to win the lottery in 2026. I mean, you can set up those goals, but can you really control it? The answer is, marginal at best, right? So, but instead say, hey, I want to go that's 100% under my control. So you can say, instead of saying, I want to get a promotion, you can say, hey, I want to spend time with the people on the promotion committee at least once in the first quarter so they get to know me as a person. So I send invitation to people on the committee to catch up with them. Now, the goal is I send invitation. The goal is not I'm going to speak to them, because whether they're willing or available to speak to you is up to them. Yeah. Whether you can send an invitation is up to you. So your goal will just be under my control. I send the invitation. That's already my goal. Done, right? I did what I could. And the rest is up to them, which is not in my control. So make sure you focus on the component that's under your control which makes it obviously achievable because it's under your control. And then there's the R, which I want to use the word resonate, right? Does it resonate with you? Does this goal make your heart sing? I.e., is it aligned with your values, with your purpose, with who you are? When you think of the goal, do you go, yeah, I want to have that, right? Yeah. And it could be the goal or something that the goal you've achieved allow you to do. So is there some connection at a higher level beyond the what and the how that resonates with you? And let's say it does, right? Because you would know, right? Other people, they don't count. It's really you deciding whether this would resonate with you. And so up to this point, we're talking about something that's positively stated, something that's under your control. It resonates with who you are. So there's alignment, there's no interference. Yeah. But let's say, you're still not doing it. Well, maybe you're missing the E, which is energy, right? Is it exciting? You can call it energy, you can use exciting. Is it something that's exciting to you? And you may say, you know what? Sending out meeting invitation on a calendar to my, stakeholder is not really exciting to me. Okay. How about linking this to something exciting? So in other words, maybe you want to go on a weekend trip to Phuket. And then you said, you know what? If I achieve this goal, I will reward myself with a trip to Phuket. And now it sounds exciting, right? You're like, hey, wait a minute. I just send out some invitations and I get to go to Phuket. You kidding me? I'm in, right? So you need to find something intrinsically exciting about the goal or attach something that's exciting to the goal so that if the goal is achieved, you experience that excitement. Could be get yourself a box of Godiva chocolate or go watch a movie with friends or, like I said, trip to Phuket, whatever the case may be, but something exciting. So if you line up P.U.R.E. and you go, okay, it's positively stated, so I can visualize it very clearly. It's positively stated. It's under my control, so I can do it, right? I can make the effort and I know it's going to get done. Yeah. It resonates with who I am, so there's no interference. In fact, I want to do it because I feel good about it. And it's exciting, so I have the energy to make sure it happens. If a goal is pure, there's no way you don't do it, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing holding you back. Yeah. You're going to make it happen. So the magic behind this approach is whatever the large goal that you have, break it down into components. For each component, find a pure goal aligned with that component so that, each pure goal gets you closer to your longer term goal. And that will make your year much more productive. And more importantly, along the way, you build confidence. You build, positive reinforcements, right? You're like, wow, this is great. I'm having fun. It's exciting. It's aligned with who I am. I can do everything I've set out to do. And I'm getting closer to my goal all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And that's something that we can practice and see how it works, right?
Yeah, sounds perfect. Because having like a purpose, a why, a calling, ikigai is like a long-term thing, relatively long-term. But in the short term, you can have multiple pure framework-driven kind of cycles, right? You have That's a goal, right. You achieve a goal, you get more energy and confidence, and you get your next pure goals. And it seems something could be deeply powerful, and people's confidence could be at the next level after several rounds of pure goal achieving, right?
Yeah, it compounds, right? It absolutely compounds. And just as an aside, like we always talk about the emotional impact of success versus failure or positive versus negative. And I often quote this, like I think there's like a ratio of 3-to-1 roughly between you need 3 positive results to offset the emotional impact of 1 negative result. And so when you do pure goals, these are positive and you're going to get positive results from them. So you can like build up pure goals because your body used to getting hit from all these negative goals that don't quite work out and you're like, oh, again, damn it. But then you do pure. So what I'm suggesting is you will need you to do a series of pure to flush out all the negative emotional memories from your system to re-envision yourself as someone who's very, as an ikigai, like you love what you're doing, you're being very positive, you're trying to do what you can, you're making progress, all these things adds up, but you have a bit of a negative baggage from before. So just do more of the pure goals to kind of offset all these negative emotional memories until you feel much more renewed and positive overall. I think that's a great way to reconstitute yourself, right? Reposition yourself as a very positive, engaging, confident, and pure goal achiever, which is great.
It's literally my recent experience related to coaching, and it's just recently I hit a trough. I was hit hard by a bunch of clients. I wouldn't go into too much detail, but it was draining, a draining process. And when I'm doing coaching, it just I couldn't continue because the borderline traumatic experience is holding me back 100%. And one day I just realized maybe I should find some positive experience related to coaching. It's not the coaching itself, it's the problem. It's the negative experience associated with coaching. So I got some positive experience. I know I wouldn't fail. I know the people will be supportive. They will be warm. They will be energetic, and they will give me energy. And then boom, yeah, recovering from the trough. And yeah, I think that's exactly very similar to the P.U.R.E idea, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, what you did was a P.U.R.E, right? Because you went to look for people who are positive towards you, which is under your control, and it resonates with your love of coaching, and you feel exciting if you have these kind of conversations, right? That's P.U.R.E. So you did a bunch of P.U.R.E experiences, and they stack up and offset all these negative hits that you took. I mean, analytically, that's what happens, but emotionally, I mean, I can feel it's, while you're in the trough, it's really tough, right? It's, everything just goes pear-shaped, but you had the resource to climb out through some of these proactively through some of these positive experiences, which is great. And I hope, to your listeners at large, life is a cycle. You're going to go hit some down points, but find out some P.U.R.E goals that's easy to implement and just do them, because that will help you to get out of that very quickly.
At the bottom is very hard, and sometimes it seems worthless. It's pointless to ask for help. But when I was at the bottom, I just sent an email to my supervisor, the coaching supervisor, and she just gave me like the best. It's not a coaching session, but it's like a supervision session, and it just something just turned around. I think, for me, personal experience, the takeaway for other folks is at the bottom, maybe they can find a coach, maybe do like discovery call, maybe it's complimentary, I'm not sure. But it's always nice to ask for help, even though the help seems not significant at the time. It may set the tone for the next cycle, right? And it could change everything. It could have like a butterfly storm effect on your life.
Absolutely. And you and I know for coaches, we love to have clients who have that need to change in them. And this can manifest in different ways, in different energy, different emotional level. But as long as they want to change, coach can help them. Yeah. So hopefully, thank you for your engagement. Hopefully we can have more people experiencing and benefiting from having a coaching conversation.
Yeah. Any final words, parting words?
I feel like the world can benefit with more coaching, and I think with the advancing technology, we can use AI to do the simpler, more methodical and content-driven engagements. But coaches can focus from the previous, the what and hows, to the who and whys. I think that's where the coaches these days can add much more value, and just get AI to do the other stuff, right? The generic conversations, which AI is well equipped to handle. I think as we grow into this dynamically changing environment, leverage the tools and give ourselves room to grow, permit ourselves to make mistakes. It's okay, so that we know better who we are and why we're here.
Yeah, it's like permission to feel, permission to be heard, permission to be seen, permission to have a purpose, permission to have a calling.
And that permission can only be given by yourself.
Beautiful. Thanks very much, for sharing your own experience and your thinking about how people should live a fulfilling life and how we should find purpose. Thanks very much.
Great. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, and I enjoyed our conversation very much. And I think I wish everyone aim for more P.U.R.E goals, give yourself permission to grow, and enjoy life. It's a journey, so have fun.